Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show, and coming at you via YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Simplecast, all those fantastic platforms. And we've got some really cool guests, as always, on the show. These guys and I kind of go a few years back. Our guests or they create real music for real people that represents and embraces freedom. Their music is about everyday life and the challenges it holds. They've been nominated for the Grammy Awards by the Recording Academy for their single Too Far Away for Song of the Year and Best Pop Duo or Group Performance. Their musical journey has taken them to perform at Music Fest, Merle Fest, the NAMM Show, Nashville Guitar Fest, OBX Festival, Dorton Arena, as well as many others. They've opened up for Charlie Daniels and played an event with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Please welcome to the show, the Moore Brothers.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good to see you guys. I'm really digging the psychedelic type of thing going on, and I love that's the classic recent Apple screensaver. Never fails.
Right. This is we're coming to you from our studio, our home studio set up here where we do all of our writing and start, the songs start right here.
Well, that's great that everything's in-house. Have you guys always done it that way for the most part, or is that more of a recent thing? Because I know you guys, and we'll get into kind of the change of sound because it went from more blues and bluegrass to now really you guys are doing kind of a mainstream thing.
Yes. So we've cut records in, I think there's one studio in South Carolina. We've cut one on Music Row in Nashville. That was kind of more the acoustic stuff, but a lot of the last stuff, it starts with the writing here and then me kind of composing and putting the sounds together to get the right vibe.
Right.
And from there, we'll run it through some producers and, that kind of style. But a lot of it's kind of in-house based stuff. So it's
Sure.
The reason we do that is because it gives us creative time. A lot of times when you're in studio, you're having to, go. But we can actually take a second and, sit here and think about something or, what kind of picture are we trying to paint, that kind of thing. And it allows us to really sculpt that song into exactly the best form it can be.
I totally agree. I started building mine in my teen years, and it was at the time I really didn't know what I was doing, but it was the best decision I could have made because you're right. It's it just gives you space. It gives you room to breathe. You can do whatever you need to do whenever you want to do it, and it really kind of takes that pressure off. But sometimes the pressure is good. It just depends on the situation.
That's right.
Well, you guys have a lot of cool things going on right now. I do want to dive back into your beginning stages, though, and kind of talk about how you got into music and wherever you want to start from.
Well, way back, I started on acoustic instruments at about 6 years old. Here, we're from Hickory, North Carolina, and here there's a lot of acoustic, Americana blues, that kind of stuff happens here. Not too far away from Charlotte and Asheville, so it's kind of cool to have that music diversity and to be able to get to both of those cities pretty quickly. But what happened is they would just go to festivals and just really take in the scene. I was like, that was something I was really drawn to. And I was actually homeschooled, and they have people come and test you when you're homeschooled to basically make sure you're on track, especially when you're younger, learning everything. And he told me, he's like, this kid's a super auditory learner. And and you need to get him into music. So between my interest and already love for music at that age, and then having that kind of set with how I'm designed, then that's when I kind of started. So ever since like 6 or 7, I started, and then just been getting it from there.
Yeah.
And then through that, we ended up, by the time I was 8 or 9, I had started playing on stage. I think when I was 11 or 12, by that time, Isaac had started also, because he's 4 years behind me. And he was playing with us on stage, and we were playing anywhere from 80 to 100 shows a year when I was 12. So you can imagine how crazy that was, just traveling and going all over the place. I think we were playing 15, 16 states, so mainly like the East Coast, that kind of stuff. But it was a lot of great experience and met a lot of awesome people, and that's definitely played into my writing today and my musical taste also. But from there, we went to we were kind of playing that, and we went through a phase of playing a lot of Allman Brothers jam band style stuff with our electronics and that kind of thing. And from there, it just kept shifting to I started writing a lot of pop stuff, and we recognized that. And I think what draws me to pop is it can be so intricate, but also so very simple.
Right.
And trying to figure out how to master, or I don't know if anybody ever really masters it. You kind of just evolve, but it's trying to figure out how do you have this you have this complex piece of music but make it simple to where it gets the message across, if that makes sense. There's all these different instruments. I think the last track we did for this What You Wanted, it was over 120 tracks.
Right. Who were some of the main influences for you with the pop transition?
I would say probably like Chainsmokers, Maroon 5 was a big one. We kind of have our own sound and what we do with it, but those are definitely influences that kind of shape what we are and how we're different. So
sure.
And also like The Weeknd. I like Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
All day. He's the man, and a lot of those guys, they have their own take on their sound, and just learning from that. And I think the collectively between those artists and hearing that, and then everything I've been through the last 10 years of playing, you kind of just develop this what you like out of things, and then that becomes you.
Yeah, for sure. As far as like blues and bluegrass earlier on, some of those influences, if you had a few that really were pretty seminal for you.
The thing is like with us, and we played some blues festivals, and we really enjoyed it. But on the grass side of things, the deal is with that is we never really were true grass. We were always on the edge, and that comes with controversy in a lot of ways. But the thing is that when you're musicians, that, and also for me being a writer, you want a platform that you can totally be super creative and not have to worry about, does that work or doesn't it? I kind of want to just portray this voice of what I hear in my head and what my brother helps me with, and he hears also, trying to get that out. And with grass, I love it, but you have some instruments that they're set in what they do.
Right.
And for me, with pop, see, you can go all the way. I can put horns in. I could put strings in. You can have synthesizers, all different types of drum samples. There's so many things that you can do as a writer. So as a composer, it was really attractive to me that there's all this limit. There's no really limits on the creativity and what you can put into a song. And that's, I think, another big reason that transition happened. And it's just really opened up a lot of creativity for myself and I believe too.
Yeah. And also now that we've in mainstream, I can tell you that that's where my heart is meant to be. Out of all the genres I've ever played, that's definitely my number one, and Jake's too. And as writers and creating music, that changes the moments that you create and the vibe and just the presence of it, and that's super important to have.
Yeah, no, it's definitely prevalent, and I really see you guys have found a nice like comfort zone with this.
And that's the thing too. It's just interesting. I think as musicians, for the musicians out there, it's also. But when we started, it definitely wasn't, because here we come from acoustic music, and you come into this world of synthesis and samples, but also some acoustic elements.
Right.
So it was a learning curve, especially the last several years, to get accustomed to that, because when you start acoustic music and the way you record and work through that is very different in a lot of ways from mainstream music. So it's the combination. So the cool part is that even though it wasn't our super most comfort zone at first, through hard work and listening and being very intentional about what we're learning and focusing on, it's really allowed us to become comfortable and then also give our voice and our take on that type of music.
Yeah. Well, let's talk real quick about What You Wanted. Love the single, was listening to it earlier. And what was the creative process on that?
Well, it's been a long one. So what happened is I was like, oh, but no, like it kind of started. It's like, let's see, it started last fall, okay, and it's a relationship-based song, more so like. So as a writer, for me, love kind of just writes its own songs, and that's just a great. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like Prince. I was looking at I was going through this Prince binge, not to cut you off, but it's relevant. And he said something about like each song is like a girl that walks in the room. You don't know where it's gonna go, but she's just there, and then it's just like then it just happens. So I never, as a songwriter myself, it's like he's kind of right, because it. Anyway, but I feel exactly where you're coming from with this.
Yeah, so like that's kind of how it started, honestly. And the thing is that I feel like writers, the songs that really hit me the hardest are the ones that you can feel it's written off of experience, and it's like very real stuff. So it kind of started like that, and I started putting the pieces together and getting a feel for it. It's pretty fast, up-tempo song. It's floating around about 135 BPM in there. So just getting a feel for, melody over that and all that. And that started into the process into the fall. I had one version of it that was a little bit slower, but I was like, I need to tweak this. Something's not quite right. So I sped it up, kept adding the parts to it that it needed and just working on it. And then probably by New Year's, it was done. The thing is with recording and the way a lot of this works is, and also having to release a song, you're kind of really hearing me from 9 months ago, because by the time you get through all the process of everything, the mix and the mastering, which we did all the mixing and the mastering in-house. I did the mixing and the mastering, and my brother, he does the producing for helping me listen in another set of ears to really hone in on all that.
Right.
Because like when you're EQing 130 tracks, man, or 120 tracks, the thing is that that's a lot going on.
Right.
So another set of ears is valuable. That's a really good thing to have. But after about New Year's, it was pretty much done, and then you just go through the process of figuring out how you want to release it, and then that kind of process. So, but it's been a really fun song to work on, and for me as a writer, being able to write the lyrics as they are and just portray that personal experience, I think it's really cool to write that, see the process, and then also see people really enjoy it and how it impacts people for good. So
for sure. And Too Far Away, another single, that one came out a little bit before What You Want. That was the Grammy nominated track, I believe.
Yes, and that one I was actually, that's another love story there, but I'm telling you, man, that's how you write. That's where the songs are at. You know what I mean?
Anyway, unrequited love, man, it never fails.
That's what I'm saying. A little too far
away. It fails you as a person, but it doesn't fail the music.
Exactly. It never fails the music. Me as a person, yeah, definitely. But it was, I was on a tour bus in Florida, and with another group down there playing Hammond, like keys.
Right.
And I was like, I was sitting there cruising along, and I just had to get these melodies start rolling in my head. Because being a musician, I play a lot by ear. So most of the time when I'm improvising, I'm hearing all the notes before they happen, and then I play it. And I'm like, 8 bars, whatever, ahead of actually what I'm playing, which probably sounds crazy, but that's what a lot of musicians do. And so I was sitting there, I kind of had these melodies. So I ended up, we're at this house, like on the beach, with all this canal around us and stuff. And one of the acoustic guitars were laying around, people were jamming on it. And I just started playing it. And I was sitting there, I was like, okay, da, 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 da. I'll say, oh, like that. And then I just started, strumming that chord progression. It just really clicked. That song I wrote in 15 minutes, and it was done.
Yeah.
It was one of those. And there was a couple other people in the room, like, listening to what I was doing. And, like, it just gave everybody, like, these cold chills. I don't know if you've ever listened to a song the first time or heard an artist and you're just, like, gives you chills or just really moves you. But, like, that moment, there was a moment there that happened that was just like, whoa.
Right.
And it was really powerful. And it's, like, one of those moments as a writer, I've not felt many like that, and it was just really powerful. and ended up one of the lead singers for that group came in there, and I just hummed the melody to them and showed them how to sing it, and they sung it, and I played it, and it was just, I actually have the original voice memos from that, which I thought was cool.
That's
but
cool,
it ended up, it was just, it was crazy. And then ended up, we pitched that to our producers, and then that was all from in-house. I'll tell you what, we had that actually setup I had then in the studio. I bought my monitors from in an AutoZone parking lot off of Facebook Marketplace.
The Yamahas.
I was like, I had some like Rode kits, which was what I started out when I was in college with Berkeley. I went through Berkeley College of Music with production. I had those for a couple of years, and they're great. But I just need something I can hear my mix better. So I got a Marketplace. I'm going scrolling, and I'm like, hey, this is a good deal. Right. So I hit the guy up. Then I'm in the AutoZone parking lot buying monitors, and then 3 weeks later, I mixed the song up, and that's the one you heard. So it worked. Well, that's the thing. I'm like, this is the AutoZone. I call it the AutoZone mix. You know what I mean?
They're always the best. Always the best.
I know it's the AutoZone mix. And I still have those monitors, and I plan to keep them. Just to have them, because I always thought it was pretty interesting. But yeah, here comes this guy off of Facebook Marketplace, and I'm just buying these monitors from him. I'm like, okay, let's
go. I've lost count of how many things I've gotten off of Craigslist at this point, like, or sold,
right?
Or flipped. It's outrageous. It's got to be over 50 items in the last couple of years. And then there's also reverb.com, which is incredible as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story on that, how it took place. And then to finish that up just for a second, we released it, and then we had our lyric video come out a month or so later, and then I was getting ready to go on stage in Raleigh, actually, for a big festival. And my agent out of New York, he called me, and he said, I got news for you. And I'm sitting there trying to warm up. And you're like, right before a show, I don't know, you probably can relate to this, but you kind of get in a mindset. You know what I'm talking about, where you're kind of getting yourself ready.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting in the zone. It's like, it's go time. It's, and I feel like people in sports do that too. They're kind of, they're getting ready. They're like, boom, it's time to go.
Pre-game or, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm getting in my pre-game. I'm getting ready. I think I was playing bass that weekend. I don't remember quite, but I was sitting there, and I talked to him on the phone, and I'm like, he says, I got news for you. He says, you've just been nominated for 2 Grammys. Well, if anything's going to mess up my pre-game, it's probably going to be that.
Right.
So I'm sitting there going, like, this is crazy. I just felt really blessed, like that's a huge thing at the time, 21 and 17, that's for us, and getting started in this genre the way it was, that was a huge kind of moment, really cornerstone for us as we were moving forward. But anyway, that was a great gig. I had a lot of fun playing and stuff. The band actually announced it from stage, and that whole weekend the buzz started and everything started going crazy. So it was a really fun time. But it's just been a crazy journey on how that's taken place. And then that fall, when that was announced in September, and then October, somewhere in there, is when What You Wanted started developing.
For sure. While we're on, we'll talk about production real quick. So you went to Berkeley. Was that like an online program, or did you do the?
Yeah. So
okay.
What I decided to do when I was 17, so I graduated high school in 3 years as a junior, and then I started with my first year of Berkeley College of Music when I was 18, or technically my senior year of high school. I started a year early, and my main major is music business and music production.
Mm-hmm.
And they work in, you get certificates all the way up to a bachelor's. So I had the highest certificate that they offer before I had a BA. And that was my main focus. So I did music business, which had a lot to do with licensing, also publishing, a lot of those kind of things, some tour, logistic kind of things, just a lot of general business. And then the production side is what really sparked a lot of the electronic and pop also, because all of my professors were all mainly electronic and pop kind of people, like doing a lot of synthesis and stuff. And in Logic Pro X, there's so many it's such a creative space that it just really promotes itself to do that. So that's kind of also how I started my training to get into that and a lot of YouTube videos, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how a lot of producers, like, even if they don't go to school, that YouTube is so powerful on picking up bits and pieces.
That's how I did it. Besides, a couple internships that I got lucky to be a part of.
Right, and that's the thing too. Like, and for me, see, in our area here, it's not a huge deal, but I'm like an hour and a half away from any major style pro studio, really. So with that being said, I'm a little bit isolated in some ways, but between the school and then YouTube, that's been my path to get there. But I definitely with you, like, if you can get hands-on learning with somebody that's, doing it all the time and is a pro, that's also super, super valuable to have. You learn a lot very quickly.
And it's funny because all the big mentors that I had, late teens, early 20s for me, were they wouldn't answer all the questions on purpose. You know what I mean? And at the time, it really didn't make any sense, or just it kind of seemed standoffish. But then you realize it's for your own benefit, because if they see that pilot light within somebody else, they're not going to blow it for them. They're going to allow them to go through the path themselves and really self-develop and self-actualize and really find that inner voice.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I've run into that a lot with even all the way from some teachers all the way into studio. It's a very secretive almost kind of community. So like I feel like when a mix engineer, mastering engineer, or producer, they get to a certain spot in their career and like they just shut down. Everything's very secretive, which that's totally understandable because that's their brand and that's what they do for a living. So they're protecting their knowledge. But like for me, my whole goal with this is like I've picked up all this knowledge and I will the rest of my life continue to learn.
Yep.
And for me, anytime I have people hit me up on Insta or anything like that, asking me questions about certain things, I'm always give them just the answer how it is, and for me, I'm not really worried about them stealing my technique or my idea.
Right.
For me, if I share that, that's going to make me grow, because if everybody's doing that, I'm going to have to find the next. And I think as a musician, also with me teaching, like somebody's like, how do you play that lick? Or like wagon wheel, how do you do that run in wagon wheel? That's what I hear all the time. And I'm like, okay. Don't get me started on wagon wheel. But great song, just overplayed for me. But like you get into that, and I'm going to show them that because it's going to force me to learn something new and to be better, So I think it's part of that process of, so I think it's super valuable to share the knowledge. If you have somebody seeking it and you can help them, that's important.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But in a real world, how it is, that doesn't happen very much. So
right. And I feel like though the great ones, from what I've seen, they have no problem with showing the tricks out of the bag, because they realize like it. You can have, and here's the other side of it. You can have 50 engineers in the same room, and even if they do the exact same settings, for some reason, it's still not going to be the same.
It is, and I heard, I don't know if you've heard CLA. He's a mixer out of California.
Yeah, Crystal Algae. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So like the other day, I was listening to one of his interviews or something he was doing. He was talking about a mix is like an opinion. So everybody has their own opinion. Yep. And of course, his opinion of a mix is very refined, and he's got his, I think it was $6 million to set up his studio that he uses.
Mm-hmm.
So like his opinion is going to be very clear, very defined, and very professional. But as a mix, it is an opinion, as you said. So you have 50 people, you're going to end up with 50 different styles and sounds, really, even if you had the same gear.
Well, and the CLA thing, it's like that's a perfect example, because there's mixes where I think it's like, man, this guy was the only person for this project, period.
Right.
You think of like American Idiot, and you think about a lot of those just like timeless records. And then I'll sit there and I'll hear some stuff that he's done that isn't as quite as well known, or maybe he took on a band that, like I'll use Creed, for example. When I listen to the old Creed stuff, like to me, that's Creed.
Yeah.
But then when I listen to the CLA mix stuff, it's like, all right, cool. Yeah, it's obviously a CLA mix, but it doesn't sound like Creed to me. You know what I mean? And it's not anything against CLA. It's just the fact that Creed kind of had lower fidelity mixes earlier on, and I'm just kind of used to that with the sound. So it's a really weird. I don't need to tell you this. You know how it is. Like how many times does the first mix win? You know, you just can't get it any better, and there's stuff that's wrong with it, but the vibe is there, and you keep screwing around with it, and you start losing vibe, and it's like, oh, the bass is too loud. Yeah, but that's what makes it amazing. You know what I mean? It's a really strange, and it's a never-ending paradigm.
And it's a balance too, because like modern day mixers, see, he's like on an SSL console, which is
right.
you know, in channel and all that, most of the time out of Pro Tools or some kind, but because I don't think not many people are using tape. That's kind of a very.
I think, doesn't he use like half-inch or something?
For different groups, he's doing different things, but I've predominantly seen him in Pro Tools, and he's routing outputs through his console. But I've seen it's really interesting. But all the modern mixers, like our generation, are a lot of in the box mixing, you know, and that's kind of the go-to. A lot of it because it's a tech thing, also because it's a financial thing, also because like SSL consoles run about 100K. So
on the low end.
Yeah, exactly. That's a generous offer.
On the low end, man.
That's a lot of records to cover that. But yeah, it's just really interesting. I think, as you know, he has his own opinion on his mixes, and all these mixing engineers, and you know, including you and myself, we all have our opinion on a mix.
Yeah.
So I think there's certain opinions that are going to be better in different genres.
Absolutely.
So, you know, he has his genre, and you know, he does what he does like he does it, and then exactly, he's like a rock person.
He's the only guy that I know that can saturate the shit out of a vocal, and it just works. Like the way he does it is just. It's just I you know what I mean? I've never heard anybody do that type of production before.
Oh, I know. He takes like old 76 compressor and just smash a vocal, and then saturate like you're talking about, and it's tough. Like,
it's very gooey, but I like it. You know what I mean? It's very 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 gooey. Whereas I'll listen to because Bob Rock's like my guy. Bob Rock's all the Motley Crue, Metallica stuff, and the stuff that he was doing then is just like, oh my god. Where the vocal is not as compressed, and it's more I don't know it's just different. But there's so many tastes, there's so many opinions. I think everybody's just trying to get to the same place, but everybody's got their own path on how to get there.
That's right. And I was watching an interview with like a pop guy that's, you know, doing a lot of releases and stuff, and he was talking about, he's also a producer, and he was like, you know, the thing is that if you have that sound in your head, you know what you're wanting, you can use it. If you have a certain grade of plugins and a certain grade of hardware, you know, once you get to a certain point, there's so many paths you can take to get that sound. It's just knowing what you're familiar with and what you're comfortable with, knowing how to get the sound out of that. And it's like, for him, he knows his hardware and his board, and so do all these, you know, these people that are in full time. They know their gear, and they know what they can get out of it and how to sculpt that sound.
Now, you'll probably smirk, but doesn't it get amazing though? Like, you go through that journey. At least this is what I'm seeing now, at least, and I don't know if you have the same philosophy on it, but you go through it all, and then things start happening where, and I think maybe just the mixes get better, and there's less that you're doing, and it sounds even better than all the crap you were doing before.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, it actually is just a U47 into a 1073, and it's just limited.
Right.
And it's just like amazing. You know what I mean? It's pretty. That's where I'm at right now, where I'm kind of like dialing things back, because I was doing a lot of, I don't know what the hell I was doing with a lot of things, just trying different things out. You know, learning you got to do that.
Yes.
But anyway, I just thought you get a kick out of that, because I'm sure you've seen that too, where there's certain things, it's just it's like, oh wow, I don't know why I have to not subtract EQ on this, or I don't know why I have to do this, or why this isn't bothering me.
Oh, I'm all love what you're talking about, like that creative, you know, working through sounds and instruments and finding combinations. I love that.
Yeah.
Even like for Too Far Away, we had some really weird combinations that nobody would ever guess. but that's kind of what just made up the sound, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, who thinks to run like a piano through a guitar rig with pedals?
Oh, it's great.
Like an acoustic piano, not even an electric, an acoustic actual piano sampled, run that through a guitar rig, and then cut all the lows off. Instant energy. You know what I mean? It's like, but you would never do that in real life. You know, you're not going to take a Steinway and then run it through a little guitar pedal. Like, it's like let me hit my overdrive.
Right.
It's not going to happen. But in the production world, you're just trying to, it's like, I see it as a canvas.
Yes.
And you have to paint the lows, you have to paint the mids, you have to take high mids and the highs, and you have to make all that work together and paint the picture for the song and fit the song.
One little quick tidbit, just because I've been dying to like talk about it, and I feel like this is an appropriate time to bring it up. And it's a small little thing, but again, on the Prince binge, I'm not sure why I'm going through that right now, but there's, if you listen to Little Red Corvette and you listen to that vocal, it literally sounds like an API channel strip is about to explode. And I'm really, I don't know where it is, if it's on the board, if it was something going on, maybe a compressor or whatever, but there's like a tube dying or something on the bus, on that vocal bus.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this thing, if he can do this and get away with it, the world is your oyster as far as engineering and production. Like, if Little Red Corvette, because now the next time you listen to it, you're gonna hear exactly what I'm talking about. Like Little Red Corvette, because it wouldn't be the same if it didn't have that. There's like, it's just so human, like listening to it. It sounds like it was done in 1968, but it's in the mid 80s, and everything's like really, really clean in the 80s. It's like, wow, Prince is just coming in and totally unhinged.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing too, is like in those consoles, you have every channel's not the same, even if it physically looks the same, but each one has tonalities and harmonics and certain saturation, and that there's all these algorithms that if you ran it through a computer, you would see. But see that circuitry and how everything's made, there's different channels. Then a lot of these guys, they go through and they find their channel that they want a certain instrument on. So like CLA 17 is always vocal. So like he knows, and he's got his setup and everything's lined up, so they'll listen through to that. In the box mixing, like, you know, what a lot of people do today, it's very different on working through. A lot of times we're having to add tapes and add saturation to get that sound, and that's a little bit different of a sound. But yeah, it's crazy how even there's a bunch of recordings, you'll hear stuff like that. Or even like if you listen to the Weeknd song, The Hills, like if you listen to some of the saturation and the atmosphere that's happening in that, it's pretty crazy. Like if you heard it by itself, you would say, no, that's not in a song, you know, but then you put it together and it's just part of the picture.
I love listening to stems. You know, you can learn a lot from anything that you can find on YouTube that's stem oriented, and it's just amazing. You'll listen, it's like, wait, what?
Also, and that's the thing too, for people out there that are, you know, starting on mixes and learning how to mix, you know, there's resources for finding stem files, which a stem file being, you know, individual tracks that have been bounced out normally as WAV files. And there's resources to where you can download those WAV files and mix in your platform, Pro Tools, you know, whatever you're using, and learn how to mix and not even have somebody come in and record. And sometimes I feel like that's a great strategy for somebody learning, because you've got good pro level recordings. So the recording part's good. And now you're just mixing and learning how to use your plugins. So that's definitely a good resource to check out.
This is good stuff, man. This is the stuff that I really enjoy talking about on the show. I mean, we have a wide range of artistic guests, but especially whenever the musicians are always, there's a lot of camaraderie, but the musicians that also engineer and produce, it's just like game over. You know, it's automatically like a 3-hour episode.
Hey.
Well, while we're on all this, and we'll start wrapping up here, but your philosophy on what you guys are doing, in the bio, it said something to the extent of music real music for real people. You want to elaborate on that a little bit more, or just talk?
Yeah, so for us, like, especially in today's times, I think like real music, it's like raw, and it's not basically stamped.
Mhm.
It actually has like expression and emotion. It's super important. I mean, I believe that you have to have that to make a good song great, first off.
Yeah.
But to create moments throughout, I think that's creating real music. It's not fake. And then that kind of radiates with real people because you know it's real and you can relate more versus, so I think that's kind of the whole gist with what we do because it's really raw. I think Too Far Away was like 15 bounce out references and, changing stuff. And that's where it becomes real. Each and every sound is part of basically your heart and what you feel and shaping that. And I think, that's why we bounce out a lot and reference a lot because it's important to make sure that it's real and that it has that air about it. Otherwise, it won't really go anywhere or won't take anybody who listens to it anywhere. So that's really the whole goal of the whole thing. So
Cool. Best and worst gig experiences.
Oh,
And you don't have to use any names.
Okay, we won't. Probably. Could be fair warning, for other patrons that are on the gig trail.
Right.
One of the best ones would be, I think, what year was that, Jordan? Was that 2018?
Probably arena shows.
It's 2017 or 2018. First off, before I say all this, I always thought when I was growing up, like when I talked to musicians and they didn't know where they were at, like a certain year, or they didn't really know where they were at, 2 months ago, I always thought that was weird. And now,
now you get it.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of people, they're just like, what? How did they not know? But the thing is that when you travel a crazy amount and then you pour yourself into writing and that's your focus and you're just like working and marketing everything that's going on, that happens. Just saying, that's a disclaimer. Just so for people.
Oh, it does.
It's a real deal. And I think, that's so much highs and lows of going, when you go up on stage, you have that adrenaline rush and then you're gone. And then, in the studio, you're working and focusing, and that's a long time that you're having to really focus and make sure everything's together. So I think that clouds the time in a way. But anyway, probably the best would have been we went to Dorton Arena. So the North Carolina State Fair had this like giant band contest.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when we were, transitioning some. We were a little bit more, I would say, jam-ish, kind of electronic maybe, but more jam-so. Like maybe a little Americana, but Allman Brothers, rock, a little bit more rock influence, I would say. And that's another thing, too. We're evolving. So we've evolved to where we're at now, and this has been, I think, our home. But through that whole period of time, Steve, we're constantly evolving. So sometimes it's hard to put descriptors on this, us evolving, because certain pieces start coming in and certain pieces start leaving. So it's kind of trying to explain that. But we've settled into pop, and this is our home now. We're really happy to be here. But we played Dorton Arena, I think, was that 3 years ago? 3 years ago, and it ended up, we got through this giant vote to the top. Is like hundreds of bands, and then we got the top 10, and then we got to the top 3, and then we went to Dorton Arena and played. And we actually were the smallest. We were only a 4-piece, and everybody else was like 5- and 6-piece bands. But we won the state band championship. So we went down there, we rocked the house, and we ended up. And I was like 20, or I was like 19 or 20, and Isaac's like 14 or 15, playing all the lead guitar stuff and singing. And we won the state band contest down there. So we were North Carolina State Band of 2018 for the year. So that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Our drummer was like a local guy, a great friend that, he's a mechanic most of the time, but he's played his whole life. And he was our drummer, and our bass player has been with us a while. So it was really cool how that just came together. A lot of that's, I think some of that's on YouTube and stuff, but it was a lot of fun. But that was probably one of the best shows we've had. And we also played the ETSU arena about 6 months later, and that was for a William Graham crusade. So that was really awesome to be part of that. So we opened it up, and it was streamed it was thousands and thousands of people in the arena, and then I think several million online. So that was like a huge kind of was a blessing just to be a part of that. Worst gig.
Yeah.
Hold it real quick. Do you have a twin reverb in your guitar rig, like a twin Fender twin?
I had one. I sold it.
Okay, so you know how loud they are, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the one I had was like 85 watts.
Yeah, I have a 95 twin. And
Oh my God!
It was on a 6 for both those shows. So big delay.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically for people that don't know about like that amp style, basically a 6, if you put it in a little room, it basically blow the windows out.
Right.
It's yeah. So yeah. Apparently, so guitar players.
You can turn it around backwards.
Volume is also tone. That is a conception that I've
It is.
Yeah.
But it is.
You gotta be clean though.
It's so true though. Like the only thing, and I've been doing this for a while. The only thing that I've found that I can actually keep on to and still have enough is my Marshall JCM 800.
Oh yeah.
The preamp all the way to 10 and the master on 2. And I have a 4x12 cabinet. I don't use the original cabinet with it with the 75s. I use another Marshall cabinet with 30s. And that works.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that works as far as like I can go into a 50 or 100 person club and not get kicked out. So and it still sounds like a damn Marshall, you know.
Well, getting kicked out is the fun part, dude.
Right. Yeah, except when you don't get paid.
Oh,
that's not the fun part.
You just got to work out the net that in before all that happens. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I had a Fender Twin, and I recorded a lot with it and played out a lot with it. But I ended up selling it. I kind of went more the Marshall route, and I ended up getting a Kemper for the studio and doing a lot of cool things with that thing. You know, you go through stages. I was heavy into the SRV and Hendrix thing, so I was doing a lot of Fender. Still have my Fender Bassman. So, you know, but yeah, the Twin's a really, really great amp. Loud as hell. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because I carry so he does that, and like when I was playing keys at the time, I carried a Fender Rumble 500 watt bassing, and I put that's 2 10s. I put that on top of an 18.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And what happens is I'm sitting there playing like Hammond or synth or whatever it is, and that 18, man, it's like
right.
Yeah.
Do you play around with like the Fender Rhodes bass at all? Like kind of that Ray Manzarek thing with the left hand? Do you have one of those?
I don't have the physical unit. I have like a modeled unit that I'll play on.
Like a simulator?
Yeah, I'm a very soft synth guy because I'd rather have a laptop and have all these presets that are like perfect.
Right.
I can take a controller or two and I can, use.
Well, especially in what you guys are doing now. I mean, it's kind of like the only option. Yeah. You know.
But all that stuff's crazy good. I love it. But yeah, I used to hold that amp around, and that thing's like as tall as me. So it was big finger grills, And you got 2 10s and that 18. It's just pumping. But,
so what is the actual worst gig?
Probably that beach, that Syria.
Yeah. Okay. This is a really strange one. Are you ready for this?
We'll find out.
It's just perfect for him because it could be like him. The radio.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we ended up. This guy. We're down here at this beach place. Okay.
This has been like 7 years ago.
Yeah, this was like 7 years ago. So this is like.
Just when you say beach place, it's like the tone is already set.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse. So we get there and it's a radio show. Okay, so all these people come into this dinner theater place, and it's like a 2-night thing. We play both nights, and we get halfway through the first show. They're running through all these scripts and stuff we're supposed to stay and do, and we're like, they're not actually on the radio. Okay, for one. So it's fake, and they didn't tell us until we're like, I figured out about halfway through because I'm like, there's no way this is on the radio.
Right.
So it's like a fake thing already, even though they acted like the whole thing was on the radio, even though it's not. But then it gets sketchier than that. We stay upstairs in the green room, and then they stayed out in the bus. So our bass player and I, we're sleeping in the green room upstairs, okay? And next thing we know, it's 2 a.m., and we're like, get ready to go to sleep. The vacuum cleaner in the kitchen just randomly turns on. And like, our bass player freaks out. So he like grabs a broom, and he runs down the stairs. And like he tries to find that vacuum cleaner, and then it like turned off or something happened. But it was the weirdest stuff. Like, really strange. And we played the next night, and then we just drove back because, like, we didn't want to stay another night there in that crazy place. But, dude, that was crazy. You know what I mean? Crazy. I mean, fake radio show in the middle of nowhere near the beach, vacuum cleaners turning on randomly. I mean, you got to wonder.
You probably topped that.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time, man. That's rock and roll. That's a rock and roll story.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good.
But also, like, we've had times where, like, it started rain is my enemy.
Right.
Like, I like rain if I'm in the studio and it's, like, outside. But when I'm outside,
right,
here, and it's, like, a big stage and it decides it's going to pour, I don't like that. That's another thing. So
the Fender Rumble doesn't like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't need to be seeing water vapor shoot out when I'm playing. Like, that's not. This is not
that'd
the
be
water
good.
park.
That'd be good for a music video, though.
Oh, I know. This is not the water park. I don't want that happening. You know what I mean? I was trying to think if there's any other.
That's why I got a big 150-pound case.
Yeah, see, he's got this big case. He puts his in. That's what happens.
It's like 150 pounds. It's ridiculous.
It's like
none of the keyboards matter. None of the amps matter. The drums don't matter. All that matters is his guitar and his amp. That's all that matters. So when the rain starts, where's Isaac? Is he there helping cover stuff up? No, his amp's already in the van. And his guitar is like, he's pretty much eating a snack waiting on us. You know what I mean?
I mean, drums are pretty resilient, you know. Yeah. Cymbals and drums are pretty resilient. The guitars and anything electronic, that always takes first precedence.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy, and there's some other ones too that have been like really random.
What's your worst one? What's your worst one?
My worst one?
Yeah.
Oh man. Putting me on the spot here. I think this is the first time. This is like we're at 90 something episodes. I think this is the first time that question got thrown back at me.
We gotta hear about these 8-mile bike rides too before we go.
Yeah.
Oh, Instagram. Oh yeah.
You're riding the bikes.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy out here. There's a lot of they don't call it Chapel Hill for.
So, are you wearing a mask, or are you just kind of aerating the whole area you're driving through?
I've got a hazmat suit on, man.
Oh, okay.
I'm they call me the biking astronaut. Now, there's nobody out here. It's pretty desolate, so I don't think a mask is required unless I actually, in other news, I have 40 bug bites currently on my thighs.
Okay.
And I'm not really entirely sure how that happened. all I know was we did a campfire a couple of nights ago. There were s'mores involved. They were amazing. And that's probably at some point during that evening, that's when that happened.
Okay.
It's pretty bad, man.
That sounds like it's not very comfortable.
It's not. I've been sitting in this for the last hour, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Rock on.
The rock star way.
Oh, actually, speaking of which, yeah, I guess that would be a pretty bad gig. So I got, it was really weird. This is sound crazy, but it happened. I had this like MRSA infection on my arm. Woo! And I think I have pictures of this. Like I got it from, I don't know where the hell I got it from. I was on tour somewhere and I was playing with somebody else, came back, and then I had my own shows, and it was horrible, man. Like the thing it was just disgusting. It took me like 9 months to get rid of it. And I had this rap on, and played a show like that. That was pretty crazy. I mean, it wasn't nuts in the sense like the show was normal, but just having to deal with that, while playing. There's always those like 103 degree fever, pre-COVID, not COVID. Let me just disclaim that. Those shows. I know I'll remember things like as soon as we end this, and there'll be amazing stories that I just am blanking out on right now. I'll see if I can remember some more. Let me ask you guys this though, real quick. Faith component. I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but how that kind of goes into your creative process, your thoughts on it.
So like for us, we're Christians, and it definitely plays a part. We want our music to be uplifting, and as like the Bible part says, we want it to have, basically our music's very clean, and we like to keep it that way. That doesn't mean that we can't tell a story, or I think it's really cool that we can tell the same stories, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you can't let kids listen to.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like, there's something to be said for that. And I value that. And I also, like, locally here, I will help do some sound design and stuff for a church when they need me, and work for that as well. But it's definitely a huge part. And I think our faith and being Christians, that's what keeps us balanced, and that's what also keeps us rooted. I've seen so many musicians, they start and they get a good start, and then they don't have that rock and that what keeps them grounded. And then what happens from there is you'll see people all the time, they just fall off the wagon, or drugs, alcohol, all these different temptations that are out there on the road. And you just have to be strong through that. And you got to being a Christian allows you have that Holy Spirit in you that helps you discern what you need to know. And and that's just a super part of us being on the road, and it just helps us overall with everything in life. It's really important.
That's great. Yeah. I was going to say something, but I forgot. But I remember I have a good gig story for you. A good bad gig story for you. So we were playing this biker bar. Already, you can kind of get a sense of that. So, and this was out in like Clayton, North Carolina. I don't know if you guys have been out there. It's like really far east, almost by the beach.
Yeah, maybe. I think it sounds familiar.
Yeah. So pretty desolate. Couldn't tell. This was back when I was 18, 19. And around that time, I was doing kind of like what you guys said, like 100, 120, whatever shows a year. I took a gap year from high school to college. That year, I playing like 3 or 4 times a week. And I couldn't tell you how we got it. Couldn't tell you how we were there. We were just there. And it was great in the sense that the room sounded amazing. We do the first set, take a break, get back on, and I notice there's this guy who comes in the double door, and he starts flailing around.
Oh no!
Starts doing this weird, and at first I was like, all right, cool, this guy's like really into this, but then it goes on for a little bit too long for it to be normal.
Right.
And I'm just kind of looking. We're like jamming out on Hendrix or something. I'm looking over at the guys like, what's going on here? And this dude's obviously cracked out or something. He's on something. Guy's not totally with us. Yeah, not totally with us. So then about 5 minutes after that, he just bolts right out the door. All right, cool. So then about 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, there's this woman that comes in, and I don't know why she was coming up to the bandstand like we own the place, because we clearly didn't. She's like trying to talk to me while we're playing, like, you got to do something. You got to do something. He's out on the road. We're like, what are you talking about? He's out on the road. And she's like, no, he's like out on the road. It's like, lady, listen, we're just the band. Like, go talk to the manager or the owner. So we end up like stopping. We stop playing and we go outside. This guy is towing the double line on this dark back road somewhere in East North Carolina, right where this venue is. And the ex-wife is like, I don't know if that was the woman that came up to us, or I don't think it was. The ex-wife was like screaming at him, you got to get off of it. So this guy's like trying to commit suicide or something during this whole thing. And it was the weirdest thing. And we're sitting there and nobody's getting him off the road. That was the strange thing. So, I mean, it was getting to the point where the band and myself, like, we were about ready to go get him off the road, but then either the ex-wife or somebody went out, got him, and brought him in.
So here's the thing. Would you say that he was in the purple haze?
Yes. This guy was either in the purple haze or maybe a foxy lady on the inside and going through some crazy turmoil. Dude, I have no idea, man. This guy was
the Texas flood. I mean, there's all kinds of things he could have been going through.
Right.
I mean,
it could be the Texas flood. Yeah. So that's one that comes to mind, and I'm sure there's other ones as well. That one was just crazy, man. Just that's crazy,
I played, it wasn't with the Moore brothers. I played with another group, and literally somebody in the audience, they had to call an ambulance, and it was a big old audience. It like kind of really killed the mood when the sirens come in and they're like taking somebody out in a stretcher.
Yeah.
That really kills the vibe. You know what I mean?
That happened on my end, actually, with a jazz gig. Somebody we know, and it wasn't my group, but and it was actually, it was too bad that it happened at this venue, because it's a really high-end venue in Raleigh, and the organist just started passing out and literally like passed out on the keyboard, and it was shocking, man. It was really shocking, and EMS came in, and it was crazy. So that, unfortunately, that band never got hired back, because it was just so shocking,
I was playing with a band near it was like a college auditorium kind of thing, and it wasn't the Moore Brothers, another band, because I do some utility work here and there. If I have spots open, I'll go play for fun. But we're sitting there playing, and it's like good, everybody's into it, right? And then the fire alarm goes off in the middle of the song.
Nice.
So everybody has to evacuate. And this is like over a 30-minute process. So we're in the middle of the song, and we can't decide if we should keep going or stop. But it's like the fire, whoever comes in, and they're getting everybody out of the venue. 30 minutes later, we go back in and we play 3 songs, and that was the end of it. It was the most awkward thing, because like we have left and evacuated this building. I think it was like some birthday cake upstairs or something. They have other areas, and something that has set the fire off. Had to evacuate. Then we come back in and we play again, and then that was the night. That was a strange one,
Yeah. We set off a fire alarm one time with a music video shoot, and it was pretty bad, because where we were was connected to this 2-story strip. It was like not like a strip mall, but like a really high end kind of like boutique shops, like high end place. And I think we evacuated like 500 people, and we're still in there getting our take, because it actually looks cool with the strobe lights and the smoke and everything.
Right.
And it's not going to be on audio anyway, so it's like, who cares? So we actually got a good take with it, but fire marshal showed up. It was pretty bad.
That sounds like you got some real life stuff in your video. That's what matters.
Yeah. I'll send it to you guys. It was Yeah, it was the same band that was on the Extreme tour. We shot that a couple of years ago.
That's fun.
But yeah, man, future plans for you guys as far as what's happening next and kind of navigating the COVID. Your thoughts on what's going on?
For us, we're looking at another release later in the year. Continuing, I'm always writing and working through like normal on getting the next material. So we're looking at another release later this year, and just keep on keeping on with that kind of stuff. Continue to develop, learn, grow, all those kinds of things. And also we're putting out videos, playing over the song and having guests and stuff. So it's kind of fun. The live scene's definitely changed, so it'll be interesting to see how that decides to go. But it's going to be the whole industry is shifting, and it will change. It will not be like it was 2 years ago.
Right.
A lot of people that are having to purely live off of performance income and gigging, they will have to it's all going to be a whole different way. Because the venues are not going to probably pay the same as they were, just because the people will not be the same for a while, I feel like, at least.
Do you think it's ever really going to get back to the way it was?
I think so. If you think I looked back, we had a giant flu kind of thing in the 1920s, and it was actually far worse overall from the casualties and the things that happened with people passing. That was far worse than this. I think this is more of a fear than it is an actual.
Yeah, I was going to say media influenced and whatever powers it be.
And it's definitely affected people, and I'm not taking that away from anybody. I know that it is serious, but I think it's also, we need to keep in perspective about, make sure we're all researched up and knowing exactly what we have offered to us as facts. I think within a couple of years it'll come back to normal with people especially like the Nashville Strip. That's why I know places like that are really hurting.
Right.
Those bars that have bands in every venue. You walk down through there and they're playing 8 to 2, and that's their income.
Right.
And you got to figure that that's going to be highly affected because they're making money off all the tourists that are coming through and saying, they're hanging out. They're on the Nashville Strip. That's the place to be, especially if you're in town. So, trying to figure out how to navigate that and, get some of that income going back. I think that's going to be the challenge for a lot of musicians.
Yeah. Well, I've got a fun little thing I like doing at the end. I call it the shootout section, where I'll say a word that's industry related to the guest. And since there's two of you, you guys can take turns firing back or whatever, however you want to do it. But you just say a word that comes immediately to mind, or a phrase. There's really no right or wrong answers.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Piano.
What'd you say?
Piano.
Awesomeness.
Guitar.
The best.
Vocal mic.
Tone.
Bass.
Muddy.
Drums.
Loud.
Song.
Great.
Lyric.
Story.
That's a good one. Solo.
The best.
Right. 10 minutes long. Blues.
Sadness.
Rock.
Hard.
Pop.
I think electronic.
North Carolina.
Oh.
Let's see.
Oh, he's going to have to think about this one.
Good.
I threw in a couple. Usually that's it, but I threw in a couple more. EQ.
Oh, EQ. Let's see. Shaping.
Yeah. And if you want, we'll also add on, if you want to say, if there's any like favorite go-to for you or whatever, you can also throw that in.
Okay. Go-tos, and Say that one more time. It broke up.
Yeah, if there's a go-to piece of gear or plug-in or anything that you kind of like, anything that you enjoy dabbling with for the last however many months.
I like Waves. I like UAD.
Yeah.
I like. Let's see, who else do I use? I use some other just like weird kind of just off-brand name stuff, but I like a lot of Waves and UAD. That's the bread and butter kind of everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, and the thing is that they both make APIs. They both make 76s. They both make a lot of the same emulations.
Right.
At UAD, I've used them some, but I can't say that they're better than Waves, but I can't say Waves is better than them, if that makes sense. A lot of people lean towards UAD. The problem is, it's just for people out there, you have that DSP processing, so you're going to have DSP chips in the interfaces or in like a satellite unit.
Right.
And that's what the plugin runs off of. The thing about Waves is you can run it off the host computer.
Right.
So even if you're Windows or Mac, you got 32 gigs, 64 gigs, 128 gigs of RAM, then you're going to have plenty to do what you need to do normally.
Right. Right. Yeah, I did the Slate Everything bundle a couple of years ago, and as far like, I mean, it's an incredible series, and because I've had Waves, I've had other just and like I don't even know where I think Sheps, I think he's with Waves, and some of those guys, they have their Wave licensing. That Slate bundle, man.
I like Slate a lot too. I have they have a good it's a saturator. I forgot the name of it, but it's
I think in the saturation world, as far as virtual, I can't find anything that beats the stuff that he put. The things that he puts out are just like they're as close to analog, without the. But then again, I patch in my LA2A and Pultec, and it's game over. So you know what I mean? It's like. And everybody has their own. That's why I was bringing this up, because everybody's got their own thing. And then it's like you can A/B stuff all day long, but then as soon as you patch in that analog, it's like, oh my! It's like it doesn't even.
Well, that's the thing. The other thing too is like if you're going to invest in gear for people out there that are like maybe starting recording or they're wanting to upgrade to get to the next level, like you need really good monitors and you need a treated room and you need headphones. That's like you start there. Because the thing is, you can have all these plugins, but if you can't hear the stereo field, because what happens is the lower end speakers, you hear this much. The better speakers, you start hearing more. Everything gets wider. And when I mean that, it's like what you can actually hear.
Right.
The speaker's not compressing the sound. It's all still the same. So don't get me wrong there. But what's coming through the speakers, I can pick apart a mix way easier on my current monitors than I can my monitors from 4 years ago. That's because, like, instead of it sounding like this, it sounds like this. It's a whole lot easier to pick out pieces when it's this wide than when it's here.
AutoZone.
AutoZone. That's what I'm saying. Those AutoZone mixes, they're wide, man. That's what it's about.
AutoZone. Delay. Delay.
Oh, delay. Oh, this is yours. Yeah, he's actually he's like delayed.
Wide, baby. Wide.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've been doing it's. I was into that for a while. Recently, it's been either none or it's just like freaking tape delay down the middle, and you can barely hear it. The wide stuff. I like it when it's offset.
Yeah.
It's that ping-pong thing. You guys probably do a lot of that in your genre.
I do, because what happens is that you can't have everything. So clubs normally are mono a lot of times, so you have to have your heart and all that in the middle. But see, everything else is stereo, speakers, AirPods, whatever they're called. All your stuff that people are normally consuming music through. So you want to keep. The goal is to be as wide as you can, be as thick as you can, be as clear as you can, and also have the depth.
Right.
So if you can almost look at it as like a big circle, and it's in front of you, and you've got your width. You want to go as wide as you can. If you go too wide, when you get on a mono system, your mix is going to sound like trash. And what happens is that it's too wide, and you're losing all that frequency and that signal that's panned left and right because it's not in the center. So you're only going to hear what's in the center of the mono. So it's really tricky to paint that and get that right. And the other part about that is if you're playing like this, the end part of the song has about 30 tracks running at one time-ish. So to fit that in there and to make that work and to layer that, you're going to have to create some stereo space, and you got to make decisions. So for me, if I have one synth over here doing this rhythm, I might have another synth over here doing a similar rhythm that will work together. I'll pan those off different directions, try to get them the same timbre so they're the same kind of intensity, and that will balance this. If I put all the harsh stuff over here and I put all the really mellow stuff over here, that's probably not going to feel very balanced. You know what I mean?
Right.
The driver in the car, he's going to be getting his ears blown out, and the right side's going to sound like he's underwater. You know what I mean? And then the driver turns it down, and then the guy on the right side, he doesn't even hear what's going on.
As I've said to folks before, MS is always fun until you listen to it on an iPhone mono speaker.
Right.
Because I literally can make your guitar vanish just like that.
Right.
Poof.
Right.
It's gone. You're like, what the hell happened? It's like, it's incredible. It's amazing. Because the stereo and talk about reference mixing, like you guys were saying earlier, that was one thing that I started doing with the iPhone speaker. I would just take it and listen. I honestly would just start from there with referencing, because that tells so much. You know, can you still hear everything on the left and right? It's almost like I stopped doing MS stuff entirely with mid-range things, because it does, even just ticking down things a couple of dBs, a few frequencies here and there, gets a little weird in the middle. You know, if you're just listening to it in the middle.
Yeah, and then like the other thing is like treating your room for people starting to record. Once you change monitors, it takes a while to know what the right sounds like for your room. So you have to kind of learn your room. So I knew with what you wanted, like whenever we're mastering or whatever, when the mix once you mix it, when the master gets to a certain point of where no matter what changes you make, it doesn't necessarily satisfy you anymore.
Right.
Than the last time. If you can't make it any better and you're just repeating, then you know you're ready. You know, you know it's done.
Right.
But you have to know what the room sounds like. So basically, like on the 10th bounce out for what you wanted, I knew based on how it sounded in the room that it was right. I just knew that. And you want it on monitors, depending on how many heads you have, you want it to kind of sit on the outside of the speakers. So that's kind of where, you know, if it sounds like it's way out here, it's just too washed out. You kind of want to sit on the edge of your monitor. So when you're working with stereo field and width and widening stuff, you want to try to get it out a little wider. And depending on the genre of music, that does change.
Yep.
You know, for pop, you want it super wide because you got a lot of wash back and forth. Versus rock, you want it out, but you kind of want the meat in the middle. And depending on your genre, that does change, you know, and then who's mixing it, because everybody has their own opinion, you know, but it's interesting like that. So.
It really is. It really, really is, you know, and just throwing on maybe a chorus oscillating thing, even if it's like 7% or 5% on the mix knob, that sometimes fixes whatever you're trying. There's always it never ends. It just never ends.
Jay, he laughs all the time because I know this room so well. He says you can't hear a half decibel change on automation. I can hear a half decibel.
No, he can't. It's not possible.
It is possible. I can hear. I can hear stuff that's 0.1. And I'm serious. Like I will literally, no, this is going to sound really stupid, man, but I actually do this. I will put on because I don't understand why Pro Tools doesn't have to the 100th decibel. I don't understand why, because on consoles, they're all at like, they have hundredths in their algorithm. So I will put on like a slate. If I have to, I will put on a slate plug-in. I will not use it for anything but just to tick something down 0.03 or just because it's driving me crazy. I will do that at times.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear it, man. I'm in the Isaac house on that one. You can hear it. And it will drive you crazy.
Hey, we're trained though. He's not trained.
What? Yeah, I guess Berkeley. I guess Berkeley isn't trained.
Let me tell you something. You know what he normally does? I'm in here mixing. He's just laying on the floor on Instagram, like. And then
But that's the magic. There's always that guy. There's always that guy, dude. You know you're like the Rick Rubin of the room because he just sits around, lounges. You just gotta grow out the beard to like down to here.
What people have, CLA hasn't even figured this out yet. The floors where the red that. You gotta get low.
Yeah, you gotta get low.
You gotta get low, man.
You know, like the Indian on the railroad listening for people.
Well, didn't the guy with Marvin Gaye, didn't he like play bass under the piano or something? Like he would literally sit underneath the piano and play bass.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, if your mixes, you need to make sure you lay on the floor.
Lay on
right.
The floor to get a reference.
Yeah.
Get a reference.
That's hilarious, man. That's hilarious. Compression.
I try to use it sparingly. I think it's important to keep things together so it's not super dynamic, but if you over compress, you've lost. Oh, in this genre, other genres, you want to smash compression sometimes, but like.
Well, it depends. I mean, a lot parallel. I'm sure once you started doing parallel processing, the whole world changed.
Yeah.
Right. It's unbelievable.
I always do that for vocals, definitely, and like some of the other instruments, if they're really high quality, I don't have to because they're very already controlled.
Right.
But I do know that for compression, I normally am just going through and just getting a feel. I try not to compress more than, I would say 3 to 5 dB normally on peaks, RMS. It just depends though on what the song needs and the sound and where I'm trying to fit it in. I really use it as a mixing thing, honestly. So if something's like really hitting, if it's good everywhere but certain peaks are hitting hard, I'm either going to use an EQ that has a compressor in it that I can do just that frequency.
Right.
I'm going to go through and take an actual compressor, set a general frequency band, and it'll feed off of that and kind of help tame that down. But that's what normally happens, and that's like with most of the time with higher synths. Drum wise, I like just some like glue. So I'll just normally talking like a dB to 2 dB. I might even run all the drum parts onto one bus and do the compression through that, so I get some synergy.
Right.
But what you don't want to do if you have like drums multi-track is you don't want to normally let everything have its own compression and its own dealio unless it's needed. Most of the time, I'll EQ those channel strips and such, but then I want to put all my reverb, any delays, and compression. I want to have that on one bus that has everything because it's like glue.
Right.
You've got all these drum pieces together, but you want to glue them with that compression, and that normally. And also, you put compressors normally on the master out too. That's just like a dB to 2 dB. That's going to really just pull everything together.
It's all in stages.
Yes.
All in stages. You know.
That's right.
2 more. Reverb.
Space.
The circle.
Circle.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that one before. I'm gonna start thinking more in those terms. I've never thought of it that way.
Listen, you talk to me long enough, you'll hear all kinds of terms that's never been heard. Isaac knows. I've got some out there terms, man. I still
think the floor is the winner. That's definitely the best, man. That's definitely gonna be a promo clip.
Yeah, your next music video. It's you in the studio. You're in the studio with your next song.
Just on the phone.
Yeah, and then the next scene you're laying on the floor listed. You know.
Right. Saturation.
Warm.
Yeah. All right, the most important one. Pizza.
Cat. Pizza cat.
What?
Pizza cat.
What does that even mean?
Cat.
Yeah. There has to be a story to that. But I think toppings. Like I was down there in Mississippi. I was down there near the Gulf playing some music down there in Mississippi. I was like an hour from the Gulf. Here comes I know some people are gonna hate this, but they like come out here and they got barbecue on pizza.
Oh yeah. It works sometimes. It really does.
You try it, man. If you like barbecue and you like pizza, that's a marriage that's a lasting marriage. You know
Yeah, the barbecue chicken and all that.
Yeah. It was the real stuff. Pulled off the back. It was good, man.
The cat. I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought cat.
Yeah, see this kid laying on the floor.
Laying on the floor.
Thinking about cats. You just
thinking
can't
about
explain.
cats with pizza.
It's guitar players, I'm telling you. They're
better than bass players, man. We're better than bass players.
We might not be known. Nobody knows who we are. But if we're not there, you know it. Like, if we're not there, you know it. Because that guitar sounds real thin with that little low end from the bass.
Another Prince reference, just because at this point it's ridiculous, but when doves cry, there's no bass.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm again, there's other Kiss. There's no bass on When Doves Cry and Kiss, and I'm baffled. I'm alarmed.
I had somebody else mixing a couple songs for a band last week, and the guy's like, he's not the head guy, but he's the bass player, so like the head guy kind of makes the calls on what he wants in the mix. But I was sitting there, he's like, "You're gonna turn my bass up, right?" And he's just a very straight faced person. I'm like, "You're gonna turn my bass up, right?" I said, "Whatever the mix needs, that's fine." And he said, "Listen," I says, "All bass players, they all want to hear the bass really loud. That's all they want to hear. They think it's all about the bass. That's what they say." And he's like, "Yeah, because it is." And I'm like, I said, "Okay." So I cranked his bass pretty hot. Not too hot, but just pretty. It was there,
Well, you know what the trick is with that, right? I mean, and I don't need to tell you this. You just get yourself that nice little SSL channel strip EQ, get that puppy at 1.5K and slam that thing. Right. It's like, "Oh, you want more bass? All right, we'll give you more bass." There's no bass. It's just mid-range so you can hear it.
Now, the other thing, too, right before we go, I want it for like your desk. If you want to have harmonic balance, there's a couple things you need. Okay? So.
Cats and pizza.
No, you need a little turtle.
Yes.
Made out of seashells. Okay? You need the White House. This is America, okay? You need
America.
You need a jellyfish in a glass.
Oh, that's good.
That's like you go to the beach, you get a T-shirt. That's going to last 2 years. This thing, 50 years plus.
Yeah.
I mean, the pros and cons. And the weight from this is what's going to harmonic. It really changes the sound of the desk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you need like an old beat up Ivan S. tube screamer.
That's for kids.
Oh yeah. That thing. Did you guys ever listen to Typo Negative at one point?
It probably has.
Because that looks like the album cover.
You need lava lamps, more than one.
Yes.
And that just sets the mood, man.
I only have one, man.
Listen, you got it next level.
I gotta step that game up.
That's what I'm saying. Because what happens is you get all these crazy lights and get the right stuff going, man. Your mix
that's all where it's about, man. It's not about what you're doing. It's not about the music at all. It's just about
I'm telling you, I bet Prince. I bet he had 6.
I bet Prince had freaking tigers running around.
That's what I'm saying.
He was Mike Tyson before Mike Tyson.
Exactly. So that's some of the things you need on your desk to progress. And also, if you have long hair, you got to have a hairband laying around.
Right.
You can't sit there. This hair's over your ears. See, that's cutting out your high end.
It's an automatic low pass. And
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, just give it to the bass player.
Yeah, exactly.
Or don't give it to the bass player. Yeah.
You probably got some of that chicken fat on your desk to keep that hair.
Yeah, how do you keep your hair so fluffy? How does that work?
Dude, I just woke up like this. I'll be totally honest with you. Literally just woke up like this. I was going to take a shower and kind of gel it back. But I was like, you know what? The hell with it.
Some Dapper Dan.
I took a shower. Well, the reason why I took a shower last night and it was still kind of wet when I went to bed, and it was just kind of, doing its thing.
Hey, you just get some of that Dapper Dan, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I use the Crew. It's got Elvis on the cover, and it's just perfect.
Yeah. The king of rock and roll.
you know.
I mean, come on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This has been great, guys. I've got one more question that I ask everybody at the end, which is, if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old selves, knowing what you know now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, stay focused, keep getting it. And I feel like we've done that pretty good throughout. But what happens is that it's really hard to know your vision at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So once you figure out what you're designed to do, and you found your calling, what you're passionate about, whatever that is, that could be music or whatever it is. Once you find that calling and that passion, you need to make sure that you just pursue that. So whatever time you're going to put to that, when you have that time to it, pursue that with everything you have.
Yeah, and then I would say, like, enjoy the journey, because the destination's going to come.
Yeah.
That's in anything you do. Like, don't miss out on that growth period, even though it's not always fun, because the end's going to come. So it's important to enjoy that journey, because that shapes who you are.
Yeah.
And when it's over, you know what I'm saying?
So it's, instead of smell the roses, smell the pizza, bro.
Right.
And
Right. And stay on the floor.
Yeah. Exactly. And get lava lamps and jellyfish.
I'm gonna order pizza and get a cat.
And talk about music and make music the sonic field of music into shapes.
Circles.
Yeah.
And do
I've always called it the black canvas, just because that's just kind of how I am, and high and low and grainy and clean and all the, but I think a lot of people see it that way. I've never heard of the circle.
Well, you're talking to the AutoZone mix. So.
You are? Yeah. Get in the zone.
Get in the zone. The mix zone.
Get in the mix zone.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you? We'll have everything in the description box, but for those viewers or listeners that are I don't know, the gym or driving or something and are lazy and don't want to hit the description box links.
iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, all your main platforms such as that, and Amazon Music. We have a lyric video on YouTube that has the song and all the lyrics to it. And we have a link that we'll share with you also. It basically has all the major platforms where you can click on it and get right to it quickly.
Okay.
So cool. We'll get all that to everybody. But yeah, any pretty much major platform, all you have to do is search What You Wanted, More Brothers, and it will come up.
Awesome.
Yes,
any last words for you?
Work outside the circle, bro.
Get in the zone.
In the zone.
Hey, our next music video, we'll just lay on the floor and do this with our hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this has been great, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time to be on. Looking forward to the new content. And you guys have been watching, listening to the Jason Damico Show.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out. What's that?
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, yeah, guys. No problem. You guys have been watching and listening to the Jason Damico Show, the Moore Brothers episode. Definitely check out their music and the new things they've got coming out in the works. And stay in the zone. We will see you on the next one. Peace.